Hello everyone, my name is Elia.
And my name is Sophie.
We are project officers at the Managing Authority Joint Secretariat of the Interreg Baltic Sea Region program. In this tutorial, our team would like to give you some tips for the development of your core project application. If you are interested in developing a small project, please check the tutorial How to Develop a Good Small Project. But now, let's focus on core projects.
So, think of your future project as a story, with a beginning and an open end, because what you will develop during your project should leave a lasting impact and remain useful after its end. Let's have a look at the structure of the development of your project. The overarching aim is to jointly develop and transfer solutions across borders and to increase institutional capacity to deal with specific challenges. Your starting point is a challenge in the Baltic Sea region. Some groups are affected by this challenge and they can influence it. But in order to better address the challenge, they would need a solution. Your project will provide this solution, but before you start, you need to build a partnership that brings the necessary expertise. Together, you develop a potential solution, a solution idea. Your project will work in 3 phases. You will jointly prepare your solution, you will test and validate or adjust it, and then you will transfer it to target groups outside the partnership. By developing and transferring these solutions, you are building capacities transnationally.
Before we start, it might be useful to stress some of the recurring characteristics of future projects within the program. First, it is important that your project acts transnationally. The challenge is transnational, your partnership is transnational, target groups need to be represented transnationally. The needs may differ somewhat across regions, but your solution needs to be applicable in different regions or countries, and that is why you will test and adapt it in various contexts so that it can be transferred transnationally too.
Second, at every step of designing your project, ask yourself, is this realistic? Can we implement this within the time frame? Can we achieve this? And also, keep it simple. Good and effective projects are often those that have a simple structure and a clear objective. This will also help you to successfully implement your project if it is selected. If you have too many interconnected threads and ideas or parallel activities, it will be easy to get delayed and more difficult to reach your goal. So with every step that we will now present, please keep these aspects in mind.
Step 1. Define the challenge. First of all, we recommend to watch the tutorials on the program content before selecting the program objective in which your challenge and your project fit.
Then, identify what situation in the Baltic Sea region you are trying to improve in your project. Formulate the gaps or issues which your future project will contribute to fill or solve. But if there are gaps and issues, there are also opportunities to seize. Identify these opportunities, which derive from your challenge. In the context of our program, there should be an added value in cooperating transnationally to address this challenge.
To further elaborate on the context and relevance of your future project, it is helpful to refer to key strategic or policy documents linked to the challenge that your project would contribute to solve. For example, consider which specific goals or actions of relevant strategic documents your activities would support. Please have a look at the action plan of the EU Strategy for the Baltic Sea region, EUS-BSR. You might also refer to EU or national level, regional or sectorial policies and strategies. For example, Green Deal, HELCOM Baltic Sea Action Plan, EU Circular Economy Action Plan.
Please also have a look at the announcement note of the call to which you wish to apply, as it will include important information related to the specificities of the call.
Step 2. Identify the target groups and their needs. From the challenge, we naturally move on to thinking about groups of actors and organizations that are impacted by or connected to it. In other words, your target groups. Target groups are organizations that have competences to influence the challenge and that should be interested in the solutions that your project will develop. Our program especially aims to increase the capacity of public authorities, but other organizations can of course also be relevant.
Define your target groups as specifically as possible. Include the type of organization, but also their field of responsibility. For example, the spatial planning department of a regional council or the economic sector that they are active in. Specify the countries or regions that the target groups are representing.
Then consider the roles and needs of your target groups with regard to the challenge. How can they help address the challenge, and what do they currently lack or need in order to do so? What barriers are they facing? This will define the objective of your project, supporting target groups in meeting their needs to address a specific challenge in the BSR.
In order to achieve this, it is important to apply a bottom-up approach. You need to know from your target groups exactly what their needs are and how you can help in meeting them. Therefore, their needs have to be clear before the start of the project. This is why it is essential to involve target groups as soon as possible. One important way of doing this is by including them in your project partnership.
Step 3. Building your partnership. Discover and use our new matchmaking tool to search for partners. It also allows you to become better connected, build a network, jointly develop ideas, stay in touch, and be updated.
We encourage you to adopt a cross-sectorial and multi-level approach whenever possible. This means that you should try to include organizations from various sectors and various administrative levels. For example, local, regional, and if needed, national. You can involve them directly as project partners or in a consultative way as associated organizations. Associated organizations support the project but do not receive program co-financing.
You should not include partners only to have more regions or sectors represented. Each partner should have a clear role and be actively involved in the activities of at least one work package.
Step 4. Develop a solution idea. This is the moment you start asking yourself what the potential solution or solutions to address the needs of your target groups will look like. The solutions you plan before your project might not be exactly the solutions that you will end up with after the project. You can change the way your solution is developed or adjust the idea to make it more functional. However, you should stick to your chosen solution and work with it throughout the project implementation.
But let's start from the beginning. As mentioned, your project will prepare, test, and transfer your solution in 3 work packages. You will implement activities in your project. The activities you will implement will lead to deliverables. A deliverable can be, for example, a prototype, a business concept, maps of the pilot areas. Your deliverables will lead to outputs. In other words, deliverables are intermediary or preliminary steps which contribute to the development of your output. But what is an output? An output is the concrete realization of your solution. An output can be, for example, digital or physical. You will test your output through pilots. There is only one output per solution. In addition, an output should be usable on its own. This means that it should include all the components of the solution and how to use it. For example, if a project develops a tool which helps public authorities in a decision-making process, the tool is both the output and the solution of the project. However, if in addition the project develops a manual explaining how to use this tool, both the manual and the tool become parts of the same output and the solution.
And what does a solution do? It contributes to solving the challenges you identified in the beginning by addressing the needs of your target groups. You will pilot your solutions during the project implementation. You may develop new solutions from scratch, or you can modify and upscale existing solutions. Upscale means, for example, to apply to a larger region, other organizations, cities, or countries.
Let me illustrate this with another example. To address the challenge posed by major nutrient loss accidents from farms into nearby water bodies, a partnership of regional and local authorities, farmers' associations, and NGOs would need solutions in the form of tools for these organizations to better deal with this problem. The solutions can help with early detection, mitigation, and control of the damage. A few examples could be a technical early warning system or a training of local enforcement authorities to increase their awareness and skills to detect and react to an accident. Or the solution can be a setup of regional cooperation units to improve transparent communication and ensure a fast coordinated reaction.
Please note that you will have only one work package to prepare your solutions before piloting them. This implies that you need to know your area well before starting the project and that you need to know what has been done before in this area. Your project should not carry out basic research on what the solution can be. In some areas, many things have already been tested, so the focus might not be on a brand new solution, but rather on finding the ones that work best, so that they can be further tested, adapted, and spread. To ensure and show that you have a good knowledge of the state of the art, it is useful to identify projects that have worked in the same area recently and whose project results can be integrated in your project design. It is important that your project demonstrates added value to past or ongoing projects. Further cooperation with organizations involved in these projects is also recommended.
The following steps will take place during your project implementation. The structure of your project will be in 3 work packages. A work package to prepare your solutions, a work package to test or pilot your solutions, and a work package to transfer your solutions. Once again, we recommend to keep it simple. Do not plan too many activities in parallel that depend on each other. Within each work package, you will organize your activities in maximum 5 groups of activities.
Work Package 1 – Preparing Solutions. In this work package, you will prepare solutions to help your target groups address the identified challenge. As already mentioned, you can either develop entirely new solutions or adapt existing solutions to the needs of your target groups or to different regional contexts. Prepare your solutions in a way that you can pilot them in Work Package 2.
We do not expect you to develop many solutions. 1 or 2 solutions per project seems reasonable.
Think about how to best involve your target groups in the preparation of the solutions. How do you plan to interact and reach out to them? What communication channels, tools, and events would be the most appropriate for your target groups?
To illustrate the structure of the 3 work packages, we can use an example of an existing project that has integrated the 3-step approach to preparing, testing, transferring solutions. The challenge that this partnership had identified was the overload of the urban drainage system during extreme weather events leading to the pollution of water streams. The project investigated 2 complementary solutions to address this issue through passive and active methods, namely holistic urban planning and introducing real-time control of urban drainage systems. Increased awareness of the target groups accompanies both solutions. Now, if we zoom in on one of these solutions, holistic urban planning, we find the following activities in preparing the solution. Data acquisition from pilot areas, choosing climate scenarios and building models, runoff modeling and risk assessment, but also assessing the need to adjust the planning policy and local regulations in order to add an extreme weather layer into the planning procedure.
Work Package 2 – Piloting and Evaluating Solutions. In this work package, you will pilot, evaluate, and adjust your solutions. Plan 1 or several pilots to validate the usefulness of the solutions prepared in Work Package 1. Start Work Package 2 early enough to have time to pilot, evaluate, and adjust solutions together with your target groups. By the end of this work package, the solutions should be ready to be transferred to your target groups in Work Package 3.
Please note that the pilots are compulsory for core projects. A solution must be piloted during the project implementation.
But what do we mean by pilot? A pilot validates the usefulness of a solution. It verifies whether the solution meets the needs of the target groups. Pilots should be jointly developed and implemented. This implies the active participation of project partners from at least 3 countries. If you do not manage to involve partners from 3 different countries in the piloting itself, you should at least involve them in the preparation as well as the evaluation of the pilot.
Testing the same component of the solution in several locations is counted as one pilot. For example, if you test a new app for sustainable transport separately in Lithuania, Denmark, and Poland, it is one pilot since you test the same app. But do not forget that in this case, the partners from these 3 countries need to prepare the pilot together and to evaluate it together. Here as well, pay attention to the best way to engage your target groups in piloting and evaluating solutions. Think about how you plan to interact with them and what channels, tools, or events you will use to do so.
You are free to decide how many pilots you need to prove the viability of your solution or solutions.
Let's continue with the project example raised earlier to illustrate what testing and piloting means in practice and what activities can be included. The project tested its improved planning methodology in 6 pilot towns across the BSR and aimed to anchor the solutions into the daily practice of partner municipalities. The activities included adding the extreme weather layer into the planning procedure and performing a series of trainings to ensure a smooth launch, testing and adjusting the extreme weather layer in real-life conditions, and finally putting it into everyday action. The results of the piloting are evaluated and a feasibility study will be compiled to analyze technical, environmental and financial advantages of the innovation and the positive impact on the water quality of the Baltic Sea.
Work Package 3, Transferring Solutions. In this work package, you will communicate and transfer the ready solutions to your target groups also outside the partnership. We recommend to plan at least 1 year for this work package.
In this work package, your target group's needs are really central. You will only be able to transfer your solutions if your means of communication and dissemination are adapted to them. Think about how to engage your target groups to learn about the developed solutions and select suitable activities to invite them to use the solutions in their daily work. This needs to be achieved through this work package during the project's duration. The uptake of your solutions by targeted organizations will be a marker of success of your project.
When planning your project, think in advance how to organize the institutional and financial support to keep the outputs functional after the end of your project. Plan also the specific roles of different partners in this process. This is what within the program we call the durability of the outputs and solutions of a project. It is a key feature of a good project to have solutions that are used and will remain useful after the project ends.
Finally, we can turn back to our example to see how a concrete project planned to transfer its solutions to its target groups. From the start, the project was designed in a way that would ensure anchoring the results of the activities into the daily practice of its target groups, municipalities and water utilities, leading to a tangible positive impact of the project. This goal has been a red thread throughout the project in order to achieve enhanced capacity of the institutions responsible for urban planning and operating drainage systems. The concept has been developed in such a way that it is easily scalable to any other urban areas around the Baltic Sea. A communication strategy and action plan specify the appropriate strategy to reach the target groups. In addition, 2 types of events were planned to deliver the results and outcomes outside the partnership. Seminars for the target groups in the participating countries but not involved in project activities, and training in the countries not participating in the project.
To end this tutorial, we would like to provide some information on the indicators to which core projects need to contribute. There are 3 output indicators and 2 result indicators. The output indicator, organizations cooperating across borders, is directly linked to your partnership. It counts the project partners and associated organizations. The output indicator pilot actions developed jointly and implemented in projects counts the pilots developed and implemented by the project. It is therefore linked to Work Package 2, in which solutions will be piloted. The output indicator jointly developed solutions counts the solutions contributing to solving the challenges. Solutions are prepared during Work Package 1, piloted and evaluated during Work Package 2, and transferred during Work Package 3. It is therefore linked to all work packages.
The result indicator, organizations with increased institutional capacity due to their participation in cooperation activities across borders, counts the project partners, associated organizations, and any organization outside the partnership that actively participated in project activities and consequently increased their institutional capacity. The result indicator, solutions taken up or upscaled by organizations, counts solutions that are used by at least one organization within or outside the partnership. The solution should be used either by an organization that was not using it before the project, or by an organization that was already using it before the project and will now extend the planned duration or increase the scale. At the end of your project, these indicators should show the impact that your project has had and should continue having.
Thank you for your attention. We wish you all the best in the development of your core project application.
Thank you.